Welcome to MSUA's Game Changers Live, where we speak with satellite and mobile connectivity thought leaders about industry trends, new technologies, and share what you need to know about the future of satellite technologies. I'm your host for today, Lisa Dreer, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest for today, David Andreas. He is the Vice President of Sales and Business Development at Santander Teleport. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. So maybe you can start by giving us a little bit of background on yourself and an update on Santander Teleport.
Yeah, sure. David Andres, I've been around in the satellite industry for many years. I think it's 25 years this next year. One to go.
Wow.
I've worked in a number of companies in the UK, and then 8 years ago, I moved to Santander Teleport, where I took this commercial role, which today is being in charge of all the marketing, sales, and business activities in the company. So maybe one announcement to make is that very recently, in fact, this week, Santander Teleport was finally acquired by a US company called FMC Global Sat. So now we have new owners, and we look forward to it. It looks like we're going to have an exciting future ahead.
Wow, exciting news. That's amazing. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the types of services and solutions that Santander Teleport, of course, your name gives a hint at
Mm-hmm.
that,
That's
what
right.
you're providing.
Well, the main services that we provide today, I suppose it can be divided in perhaps three areas. One of them, obviously, as a teleport operator, we have our own teleport infrastructure in the north of Spain, in Western Europe. We operate about 20 antennas in different bands, C-band, Ku-band, and also X-band. So we support a number of customers, both enterprise, mobility, and government customers. Three types of services mainly. One is standard teleport services, uplink, downlink services. The other one is hosting antennas for satellite operators. For example, Inmarsat, for whom we host one of their gateways for one of the future satellites. And finally, managed services that today we provide for niche markets where we can really add some value. And we're really focused usually in government and mobility markets.
Great, thank you. Maybe we can start by having you talk a little bit about what you feel is the most important role that the satellite industry is playing in the future of mobile connectivity.
Sure. I mean, I think the role of satellite in today and in the future, the main role is what satellites are really about, which is about providing worldwide ubiquitous connectivity, independently of where you are, whether you are on land, on sea, or whether you are on air. And this is where I think even in the future, this is going to be the primary role. Satellites are mainly going to be the enablers of that truly global connectivity.
Yeah. What do you think we'll see as some of the most significant changes that will happen over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, there are so many things going on right now. It's a very exciting industry to be in at the moment, with all the lots of new companies coming in, new technologies being used, something that we haven't seen before, really, in the history of satellites. I would say something that could truly change our sector. Just to name one, perhaps would be the integration with the 5G ecosystem. I think for the first time ever, the mobile industry is not thinking about, like we did with 3G, 4G, or 2G, a cellular networks. Is more about no matter what technology we want to provide, very high bandwidth, low latency to millions and millions of devices and people, connectivity. And satellite now has the real opportunity, and there is a lot of work happening in the background to be part of that ecosystem, and that could change completely, and really make satellite part of this ubiquitous, global cloud connectivity everywhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think one of the things that we are hearing a lot of talk about, at least within the industry, is this idea of moving toward more of a standards-based approach and away from proprietary solutions. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I think this is something that we have been discussing in this industry for a long time, and I believe this one of the showstoppers is that we're a relatively small industry in terms of volume of users and volumes of customers. When you compare us with, for example, the cellular industry, the big mobile operators with that, pretty much, there are millions and millions, thousands of millions of customers. Everyone has a mobile phone and in most cases several devices, each of us. So added to that, and that creates basically a relatively small ecosystem of technology companies competing with each other to provide the actual waveform to create those satellite links. So standardization is about stopping that and allowing users to be able to roam and move between different suppliers without having to worry what is the technology behind. So being more technology agnostic and just using a terminal that can easily be connected or reconfigured. So that's a great thing if we can achieve it, because that potentially means that we will become a lot more attractive. And
Mhm.
you can also think that we could become a lot more cost efficient, and we could increase the number of volume of customers using satellite services.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges that uh, solutions providers are facing today in really delivering that commercial satellite solution to the market?
Well, I think the holy grail in providing a good communication services for the mobile industry is to be able to provide a truly broadband service um, in an area or globally, depends on when your market is, that is also can be used with user friendly devices, user friendly end terminals.
Mhm.
And that basically means that something that is almost plug and play, that the users don't need to know much about the technology behind, and something that also is not big bulky, but is more of a low weight, easily portable, low power consumption device. I mean, and at the right price. So this is the holy grail. This doesn't exist today. Not if we not for truly broadband connectivity,
Mhm.
but this is the aspiration of the industry. So, I mean, there are a lot of things happening and some really interesting projects and innovations today. So, hopefully, that this will be something that we will see in the next in the future, in the next few years.
Absolutely. So as a user of satellite services, what would you recommend that the users really look at in terms of the criteria of solution providers that they might work with?
I think for the users, really depends what kind of user you are. If you are not a technology savvy user and you just want connectivity, I think what you want is having a service that is easy to use and provides a good SLA. I think SLA is one of the most important factors rather than thinking about technology behind, because technology is
Mhm.
a great thing to be able to achieve things, but at the end of the day, what matters is the end result. And for users, normally that's linked to quality of service and what is the experience that you are getting, and make sure that you get a good SLA. For some for some niches, like some markets, like perhaps the government market, is also very important to think about things like how secure is my service, how resilient, how reliable, how trustful is my provider, etc., etc. So I think it varies in between users, but normally it is around SLAs and security, availability, resiliency, ease of use. Those are the most important factors, I think.
What kind of expectations should users have around things like SLAs and security?
Well, I think nowadays you should expect to have an SLAs that provides almost 100% or as close to 100% availability as possible, a resilient service, and enough security to make sure that your communications are not compromised. And those are probably the things that, as a user, you expect today. But these are not straightforward things to achieve, and the service providers do a lot of work in the background to make sure that all this is achieved in the best possible way.
Absolutely. When you think about, I mean, I think one of the things that you talked about a little bit earlier was that there are so many changes happening in the industry, and a lot of that revolves around new technologies that are coming to market. What do you think are some of the key technologies that we really need to know about?
Well, I mean, if you're a user that really interested in technologies, I mean, there are so many things that are happening right now. I mean, you could think of integration to the cloud, integration of the satellites with 5G, the evolution of the development of user terminals, in particular electronic steerable antennas, or flat panel antennas, whichever word you want to use. I think this last one is probably very exciting because this user terminals play a really key role in the future success of this industry and making it a lot more accessible to new markets. And there are also other things like, obviously they were seeing the new global LEO constellations happening. Well, I say LEO, but we'll call it LEO, MEO, or highly inclined orbit. So, anything that is not GEO, but also geostationary satellites, which has been the traditional satellite model for satellite communications. They're not coming with digital processors on boards, with a lot of technical features that make them a lot more flexible, a lot more proven against changes in the marketplace. So you can reconfigure beams to, in the lifetime of a satellite, for example, to create a new market if the one you initially anticipated is not working that well. Very high throughput satellites, moving terabytes of megabits just on one satellite. So there are many things going on. But one of the things that I think is very important to us to see how it evolves is the user terminal development.
Got it. Got it. So when you think about that, what types of, I guess, are there new use cases that become possible with the new technologies, or I guess, are those use cases improved or made better with those technologies? What do you see?
Well, I think those technologies are going to help improve the current business use cases, by adding a lot more throughput to what is already there. We're talking about not doubling, but orders of magnitude of capacity being put out in the sky and being available to users. So whereby we used to call a broadband service a 1 megabit service, perhaps on satellites, now we're talking potentially about hundreds of gigabits effectively for per user. So that is a tremendous change. So I mean, for some of the very bandwidth hungry applications, that's very good news. Something that perhaps it wasn't easy to achieve before. That's very good news. And also, as we use lower orbits, applications that require low delays or lower delays, lower latency, like cloud, applications running in the cloud, etc., which nowadays, there is an increasing number of applications, even enterprise applications that are running in the cloud. That makes it a lot more user-friendly and manageable. So I think, with these new technologies, you improve a lot on the current use cases, and then you progress more in line with current terrestrial technologies. And effectively, you could do things like ubiquitous IoT networks, and you can think of driverless cars and all sorts of things managed through any kind of connectivity, including satellite.
Oh, yeah. So those will be some really exciting use cases that will hopefully come to pass sooner rather than later. This year, MSUA is celebrating our 30th year of representing the interests of satellite users and providers. And with that in mind, I guess I want to talk a little bit about what your prediction would be about the next 30 years of mobile satellite solutions.
Wow, I'm gonna bring my crystal ball here. If I really knew the answer, perhaps I could make a lot of money out of it. I mean, it's hard to know, but I mean, 30 years, knowing how fast technology evolves nowadays. If we think how it was 30 years ago, so this is in the 1990s, we didn't have a lot of things that we had nowadays. We didn't have smartphones to start with. I think we were perhaps only until the end of the 90s. We didn't even have an iPod. So things can change an awful lot, and if we expect a similar change in the advancement of technologies and innovation, I think satellite could really become the provider of truly ubiquitous, very high throughput, broadband connectivity all over the world, independently of where you are, even if you are in the Antarctic or the Antarctic, in the middle of the sea, up in the air, moving very fast and moving very slow. So I'm fully integrated with whatever other more traditional terrestrial technologies there are. So almost satellites perhaps could be sitting in the background, and users wouldn't need to worry anymore whether they're connected to a satellite, whether they're connected to a tower cell or any other wireless means. So they could, I think satellites in 30 years' time, I would like to think that they will be the real enabler of a truly global connectivity for mobile users without restrictions. That's a lot. That's big aspirations. But 30 years is a long time. So
it really is. It really is. It's hard to imagine where things will go in 30 years. So we are very excited to be celebrating MSUA's 30th anniversary.
Congratulations to all of us.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you for being a member. And also, thank you for being here today to share your insights. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and it's great talking to you, Lisa.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, David. And I also want to take a moment to thank the Mobile Satellite Users Association for hosting these sessions. To learn more about the MSUA, visit msua.org. And you can learn how to become a member of our organization, as well as get our weekly newsletter that keeps you up to date on all of the latest in satellite mobile technologies. And we'll see you next time on MSUA's Game Changers Live.